Every alien race in the galaxy made the same mistake. They looked at Earth. They looked at the small, wet, green and blue rock floating quietly in a forgotten corner of the Milky Way. And they laughed. The Galactic Council had been meeting for 10,000 years. It was the most powerful group in the known universe. 47 alien races sat together inside a giant space station called the Seat of Stars. The station was bigger than some moons. Its walls were made of a metal so strong that no weapon in the galaxy could break it. Or so they believed. Every race that sat on the council had something to offer. The Vorkai had the fastest ships, long silver vessels that could cross a solar system in minutes. The Dranathi had the strongest soldiers, 8 feet tall, 4 arms, skin like rock. They had never lost a war in 5,000 years. The Zellurians had the best weapons, energy cannons that could burn a planet's surface clean in 1 hour. And then there were dozens of others, each one powerful, each one proud, each one very sure of themselves. And then there was Earth. Earth had sent one ship, just one. It was not fast, it was not shiny, it did not look dangerous. It was a simple gray vessel, round and dull, like a stone someone had thrown into space. It had no visible weapons, no energy shields that the Council's scanners could detect. No army of soldiers waiting inside, just one ship. And inside that ship, just one man. His name was Admiral James Cord. He was not very tall. He was not very big. He had gray hair, calm brown eyes, and a small scar above his left eyebrow. He wore a plain dark uniform with no medals on it, no decorations, no gold, nothing that said, "I am important." He walked into the Seat of Stars alone. The alien ambassadors watched him walk across the Great Hall. Their eyes followed him the way a crowd watches a small animal that has wandered into the wrong place. Some of them whispered to each other. Some of them smiled. One of them, a tall Vorkai commander named Zealous, let out a slow laugh, a deep sound that rumbled through the hall like distant thunder. Admiral Cord stopped in the center of the hall. He looked around at all 47 races. He did not look scared. He did not look nervous. He just looked patient, like a man who had been waiting a very long time for this exact moment. "Greetings," he said. His voice was calm and clear. "My name is Admiral James Cord. I represent Earth. I represent the human race." Zealous leaned forward in his seat, his long blue fingers folded together. "Yes, we know," he said. "We have been watching your planet for many years. You are young. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are weak. Your people are small." He paused. "We have been kind to you humans. We allowed you to exist without joining us. You should be grateful." A ripple of agreement went through the hall. Admiral Cord listened to all of it. He nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "That is actually why I'm here today." He looked directly at Zealous. "I am not here to join your council." Silence. Zealous tilted his head. "Then why are you here, human?" Admiral Cord's expression did not change, not even a little. "I am here," he said quietly, "to give you a warning." The laughter that followed was enormous. 47 races, hundreds of ambassadors, guards, and advisors. They all laughed. Some of them laughed so hard they had to hold their chairs. Zealous laughed the loudest, his deep voice shaking the walls. A small Zellurian diplomat in the back of the room was laughing so much that his green skin turned yellow. A warning. They laughed. A warning. From a human. One of the Dranathi soldiers, a giant creature with dark red armor, walked forward slowly. He stopped 3 feet in front of Admiral Cord and looked down at him. The Dranathi was nearly 3 times the size of the man. He said nothing for a moment. He just stared, then he spoke in a slow, heavy voice. "Little human," he said, "do you know how many wars the Dranathi have won?" 11,422, Admiral Cord said without blinking. "Your last loss was in the year 3100 of your calendar, against the Foreth people of the Ceres system. You won that war in the end, too. But it took you 40 years. You lost 1.2 million soldiers. Your general at the time, Commander Vran, made 3 key mistakes that cost you those lives." He paused. "Would you like me to name them?" The Dranathi soldier said nothing. The laughter in the hall had stopped. Zealous was no longer smiling. He was watching the human very carefully now. "You have done research," Zealous said slowly. "That is, Surprising, but knowing history is not power. Human. Power is ships. Power is soldiers. Power is weapons. He gestured around the room. And you have none of those things. Admiral Cord looked at him for a long moment. That, he said, is exactly what we wanted you to think. 300 years ago, Earth made a decision. It was a quiet decision, no big announcement, no speeches, no news reports. The people who made it sat in a small room deep underground, in a place that no map showed and no satellite could find. There were 12 of them, 12 people who had spent their lives watching the galaxy. They had watched the Vorkai destroy a peaceful planet called Meru because it had minerals they wanted. They had watched the Dranathi conquer 30 civilizations in 50 years. They had watched the Galactic Council sit in their giant station and do nothing, because the strong races always protected each other. They had watched all of this, and they understood something important. The galaxy was not kind. The galaxy was a place where the powerful ate the weak, and Earth at that moment was weak. They did not have fast ships. They did not have strong soldiers. They did not have powerful weapons, and every alien race with a scanner knew it. So the 12 people in that underground room made a decision. They would hide, not just a little, not just by keeping quiet. They would build a lie so perfect, so complete, that the entire galaxy would believe it for 300 years. Earth would look weak. Earth would send slow ships to alien meetings. Earth would speak softly. Earth would smile and nod and say, "Yes, of course, you are right. You are so powerful." Earth would act like a small, harmless planet that was no threat to anyone. And in secret, in the dark, in places no alien scanner would ever find, Earth would build. The program had many names over the years, but the people who worked on it called it simply the Wait. For 300 years, human engineers worked underground, under oceans, inside hollowed-out asteroids and dead moons. They studied every alien ship they could find, traded for, stolen, copied from debris after distant battles. They studied every alien weapon, every shield system, every engine design, and then they improved all of it. The humans had one advantage that no alien race ever gave them credit for. Humans were stubborn. Humans did not give up. Humans looked at a problem and kept working on it for years, decades, centuries if they had to. A Vorkai engineer would build a good ship and say, "This is done." A human engineer would build the same ship, find 20 things wrong with it, fix them all, find 20 more, fix those too, and not stop until the ship was something the Vorkai engineer could not even imagine. They did this for 300 years. By the end, they had built something that no one in the galaxy knew existed. Back in the seat of stars, Admiral Cord was still standing calmly in the center of the hall. Zealous had called for quiet. The ambassadors were watching the human now with different eyes, not laughing eyes anymore. Something closer to curious eyes. Maybe something closer to uncomfortable eyes. "You said we are wrong," Zealous said carefully. "You said Earth has power that we do not know about. This is a serious claim, human. If you are lying, this council will have the right to act against your planet." "I am not lying," Admiral Cord said. "Then prove it," Zealous said. "Show us something. Anything." Admiral Cord was quiet for a moment. He reached into his jacket and took out a small device, no bigger than his hand. He placed it on the floor in front of him. Nothing happened for 3 seconds. Then the entire seat of stars shook. Not an explosion, not an attack, just a vibration deep and powerful, like a sound so low it could not be heard, only felt. Every ambassador grabbed their chair. Guards reached for their weapons. Someone shouted. Then it stopped. Silence. Zealous slowly looked down at his scanner screen. His long blue fingers were trembling, very slightly. "That vibration," he said slowly. It came from inside your ship." "Yes," Admiral Cord said. "But your ship is the size of a transport vessel." Zealous said. "A vibration that size would require an engine 10 times larger than your entire ship." "Yes," Admiral Cord said again. Zealous stared at him. "That is not possible." Admiral Cord looked up at him with calm brown eyes. "That is what we needed you to believe," he said. For a moment no one in the hall moved. Then Zealous straightened in his chair. He was a proud creature, thousands of years of history behind him. He did not become afraid easily. He pushed the feeling down. He looked at the human in front of him and decided that fear was not the right reaction. Anger was, "You come into this hall," Zealous said slowly, his voice dropping low and dangerous. "You say you have power. You make our station shake with a little device." He stood up, all 7 feet of him. "I do not know what trick that was, but I do not take warnings from humans." He looked to his left at the Vorkai military commander seated beside him. "Commander Drexa," he said, "target the human ship. I want a warning shot fired. Now." There was a pause, just 1 second. Then Commander Drexa nodded and pressed a button on the screen in front of her. Outside the station, a Vorkai cannon, one of the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, fired a single shot directly at the small gray human ship. Everyone in the hall watched the screen. The shot hit the ship. The ship did not move, not 1 centimeter. The shields did not even flicker on the scan. The ship simply sat there, gray and dull and completely still, as if nothing had happened at all. The hall was absolutely silent. Admiral Cord had not looked at the screen. He already knew what the screen would show. He looked at Zealous instead, and for the first time his expression changed. He stopped smiling. His voice when he spoke was very quiet, so quiet that every ambassador had to lean forward to hear him. "That," Admiral Cord said, "was your only warning." No one laughed this time, and somewhere deep in the cold dark of space, 300 years of waiting had finally come to an end. The Seat of Stars was the most powerful place in the galaxy. It had survived wars. It had survived rebellions. It had survived the great collapse of the Dranathi Empire 4,000 years ago. Its walls had never shaken. Its ambassadors had never been afraid. Its council had never been silenced. Until today, nobody spoke for a long time after the shot. The Vorkai cannon had fired directly at the human ship. It was not a small weapon, it was not a warning flare, it was a full energy blast, the kind that could split a small moon in half. Every ambassador in the hall had seen that cannon used before. They knew what it did to things it hit. But the human ship just sat there, still, gray, quiet, like it had not noticed. Commander Drexa, the Vorkai military commander, was staring at her scanner screen with wide eyes. Her scanner was telling her something that made no sense. The human ship had not just survived the shot, it had absorbed it. The energy from the blast had gone into the ship's hull and simply disappeared, like water poured into dry sand. She ran the scan again. Same result. She ran it a 3rd time. Same result. "Zealous," she said quietly, "I need you to look at this." But Zealous was already looking. He was standing at his seat, completely still, staring at the screen in front of him. His face had changed. The anger was gone. In its place was something that Zealous had not felt in a very long time. He was not sure what to call it. He decided to call it caution. Admiral Cord was still standing in the center of the hall. He had not moved, he had not looked at the screen, he did not need to. He already knew what the cannon shot would do, or more correctly, what it would not do. He looked at Zealous calmly. "I will be leaving now," Admiral Cord said. "I suggest you use the time wisely." He picked up the small device from the floor, put it back in his jacket, turned around, and walked out of the hall. No one stopped him. On the journey back to his ship, Admiral Cord walked through 3 long corridors of the Seat of Stars. The corridors were full of guards, huge Dranathi soldiers in heavy red armor, Vorkai officers with energy weapons at their sides, Zellurian security drones floating silently overhead. Not one of them touched him. Not one of them said a word. They all watched him walk past with the same expression, the same uncertain, uncomfortable, very quiet expression. When Admiral Cord reached his ship and the door closed behind him, he sat down in his chair and let out a long, slow breath. He was not as calm as he had looked. His hands were shaking, very slightly. He pressed them flat on the armrests until they stopped. 300 years of work, he thought. 300 years, and it all came down to one walk across one hall. He opened a communication channel. "This is Cord," he said. "First contact complete. They took the warning. They fired on us. The hull absorbed it as expected. No damage." A voice came back. A woman's voice, steady and professional. "Understood, Admiral. The Council will begin emergency meetings within the hour. Our analysts predict they will send scouts to Earth within 48 hours. Let them come," Admiral Cord said. "Show them what we want them to see. Nothing more. Understood, Admiral and Sir. Well done. Admiral Cord looked out the small window of his ship at the massive Seat of Stars station floating in the dark. The hard part hasn't started yet, he said quietly. He closed the channel. He was right. 40 hours later, 3 Vorkai scout ships arrived at Earth. They were fast ships, small and silver, built for observation, not war. They carried the best scanner technology in the galaxy, equipment that could read the temperature of a single rock from 10,000 kilometers away, equipment that could detect any energy source, any weapon system, any hidden structure larger than a small building. The Vorkai scouts circled Earth slowly. They scanned the surface, they scanned the oceans, they scanned the atmosphere. They looked for military bases, they looked for weapon systems, they looked for hidden ships. They looked for any sign of the power that Admiral Cord's vessel had shown. They found nothing. Just cities, roads, farms, forests, oceans, a few old-style spacecraft in low orbit, slow and small. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening, nothing that looked like a civilization hiding a secret. The lead scout, a young Vorkai officer named Vel, sent his report back to the Council. Earth appears exactly as expected, he wrote. Small military presence, no advanced weapon systems detected, no hidden structures of any significance. The incident at the Seat of Stars may have been a single advanced device rather than evidence of broader military capability. Recommend continued observation but no immediate concern. He was completely wrong. But Vel was not stupid. He was actually one of the best scouts in the Vorkai fleet. He had done everything right. He had used every scanner perfectly. He had been thorough and careful and professional. He just did not know what he was looking for, because the humans had spent 300 years learning how to hide from exactly those scanners. It had started with a simple problem. Human engineers had realized early in the program that building ships and weapons in secret was only half the challenge. The other half was staying hidden while they did it. The Vorkai scanners were the best in the galaxy. Everyone knew that. If the Vorkai ever scanned Earth seriously, they would find everything. So the humans had studied the Vorkai scanners for 100 years, not to copy them, to understand their blind spots. Every scanner, no matter how advanced, worked on principles. It sent out signals and read what came back. It looked for specific things: energy, mass, heat, movement. If you could make a thing produce none of those signals, the scanner would not find it. Human engineers had developed something they called dead coding, a material that absorbed every type of scanner signal and returned nothing. It produced no heat, no energy reading, no mass signature. To a scanner, something covered in dead coding simply did not exist. They had covered everything in it. Every ship, every base, every tunnel, every building that humans had built in secret for 300 years. All of it was covered in dead coding and buried or hidden where no visual observation could reach. Under the Pacific Ocean, 4 kilometers below the surface, there was a shipyard the size of a small country. Vel's scanners passed right over it and saw nothing but water. Inside the moon Callisto, orbiting Jupiter, there was a weapons testing facility that had been operating for 150 years. Vel's scanner saw nothing but rock. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, scattered among thousands of ordinary rocks, there were 600 completed warships, sitting cold and silent, waiting. Vel's scanners saw nothing but asteroids. Vel circled Earth 3 times and wrote in his report that Earth had no military threat. He flew home, and in the deep cold silence of the asteroid belt, 600 human warships waited patiently in the dark. Back on the Seat of Stars, the Council was not as calm as Vel's report suggested they should be. Zealous had called an emergency session. All 47 races, every ambassador, every military advisor, every intelligence officer. They met in a smaller room this time, not the Great Hall, a room with locked doors and signal blockers so that nothing said inside could be heard outside. The scout report is reassuring, said Ambassador Threen of the Zilurians, a small green creature with 4 eyes. Perhaps the human's device was a one-time thing, a special weapon, not a general capability. Perhaps, said Zealous. He did not sound reassured. But I keep thinking about something the human said. What did he say? Asked a Dranathi general. Zealous was quiet for a moment. He said that is exactly what we wanted you to think, Zealous said slowly. Past tense, wanted. As in, they had a plan. As in, this was not an accident. As in, they have been doing this. deliberately, for a long time. The room was quiet. "You think they have been hiding from us," said Threen. "I think," said Zealous carefully, "that we assumed they were weak because they showed us weakness. I think we never asked whether the weakness was real." Another silence. "That is a very uncomfortable thought," said Threen. "Yes," said Zealous, "it is." There was one person in the galaxy who was not surprised by any of this. Her name was Suri. She was a Zelurian, small and green, about 60 years old in human terms. She had spent the last 20 years working as a low-level trade officer on Earth. She was the closest thing the galaxy had to an expert on humans, and she had been trying to warn the Council for 15 years. She had written reports, 12 of them, long, detailed, carefully researched reports about the things she had noticed during her time on Earth. The way humans talked about their history, the way they planned for the future, the strange silences in certain conversations when she asked about military matters, the way human leaders always redirected questions about Earth's defenses with a smile and a change of subject. She had sent all 12 reports to the Council. The Council had filed them under low-priority observations from minor trade post. Nobody had read them. Now, 2 days after Admiral Cord's visit to the Seat of Stars, Suri received a message. It was from Zealous himself. It said 4 words. "Come to me immediately." She was on a ship within the hour. When she arrived at the Seat of Stars, Zealous was waiting for her in a private meeting room. He looked different than she remembered. Older, somehow, or maybe just less certain of himself, which on a Vorkai elder looked like the same thing. "Tell me everything," he said. So she did. She told him about the 15 years on Earth. She told him about the 12 reports. She told him about the silences and the redirections and the smiles. She told him about a night, 8 years ago, when she had been on a boat in the Pacific Ocean, and her scanner had returned a strange reading from below the water. Just for 1 second, before returning to normal, she had put it in report number 7. Zealous pulled up report number 7 on his screen. He read the relevant section. He read it again. He set the screen down slowly. "Below the water," he said. "Yes," said Suri. "How far below?" "My scanner read approximately 4 kilometers before the signal disappeared," she said. "I assumed it was equipment malfunction." "And now?" Zealous asked. Suri looked at him steadily. "Now," she said, "I do not think it was malfunction." Zealous stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars for a long time without speaking. "How long?" he said finally. "Do you think they have been building?" Suri had thought about this question for a long time. She had gone over every report, every memory, every small strange detail from 15 years on Earth. "I think," she said quietly, "they have been building since before my grandmother was born." Zealous closed his eyes. Outside the window, the stars were very still and very quiet. "We made a mistake," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," Suri said, "a very large one. Can we fix it?" Suri was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I think the humans are going to give us the chance to find out." She paused. "That worries me more than anything else." Zealous looked at her. "Why?" "Because it means they already know we cannot stop them," she said, "and they are choosing not to act yet." She looked out at the stars. "Whatever they are waiting for, we need to figure out what it is before they stop waiting." 3 days later, the Galactic Council made its decision. They voted to send 3 full war fleets to Earth orbit, not to attack. They told each other it was not to attack. It was a show of force, a reminder to the humans that the Council was powerful, a way to say, "We have seen your trick, we are not afraid, we are still in charge." 47 races voted, 46 voted yes, 1 voted no. Suri, she voted no, and she wrote a short message to go with her vote. It said simply, "You are making the same mistake again. You are showing them what you have. You are giving them information they do not already know, and you are doing it because you are afraid. They will see that. Humans always see that." Nobody listened. The 3 war fleets assembled within 36 hours, 500 ships total. The best vessels from the Vorkai, Drenathi, and Zalurian fleets, heavy warships, troop carriers, weapon platforms, everything the Council had. They jumped to Earth space together. And when they dropped out of faster-than-light travel and their scanners came online and they looked at Earth orbit was empty. No ships, no defenses, no response of any kind. Just the planet sitting there, blue and green and quiet, like it did not know they were coming. Or like it did not care. The Vorkai admiral commanding the fleet, a cold and experienced soldier named Drexa, the same Drexa who had fired the cannon at Admiral Cord's ship, looked at her scanner screen. She checked it twice. "There is nothing here," her second officer said, confused. "No ships, no weapons, nothing." Drexa did not answer him right away. She was remembering what it had felt like to watch that cannon shot hit the human ship and do absolutely nothing. She was thinking about the 12 filed reports that nobody had read. She was thinking about Suri's single no vote. She was thinking about Admiral Cord's calm brown eyes and his quiet voice saying, "That is exactly what we wanted you to think." Her scanner beeped. She looked down. A new reading. Not from above Earth. Not from orbit. Not from space. From below, from inside the planet, deep underground. Her screen showed energy signatures beginning to activate. 1, then 10, then 100, then 1,000, growing faster and faster, like fires lighting one after another in the dark. 10,000 energy signatures, all powering up at once. Drexa's hand moved very slowly toward the emergency alert button. "All ships," she said, and her voice, for the first time in her long military career, was not completely steady. "Prepare for contact, deep inside the Earth in caverns that no alien scanner had ever found." 10,000 engines began to wake up. 300 years of waiting was over. There is a moment in every war before the first real shot is fired. A moment of silence. Not a peaceful silence, not a calm silence. The kind of silence that has weight to it. The kind that presses down on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. The kind that every soldier in every army across all of history has felt, just before everything changes. Admiral Drexa felt that silence now. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vorkai warship called the Iron Crown, the most powerful vessel in the Council's combined fleet, 500 ships behind her, the best weapons in the galaxy at her command, a military career spanning 200 years of victories. And she was afraid. She would never say it out loud. She would never show it on her face. But her hands were very still on the edge of her command console, very deliberately still, the way hands get when they are trying very hard not to shake. On her scanner screen, the 10,000 energy signatures were still growing, powering up, one after another, deep inside the Earth. In places her scanners had never detected before. In places her scanners still could not fully read. The dead coding was breaking down slowly as the engines activated, leaking just enough signal for her to count them. 10,000. She counted again. Still 10,000. "Admiral," her second officer said quietly beside her, a young Vorkai named Kyle. "What are your orders?" Drexa did not answer immediately. She was thinking about 500 ships. She was thinking about what 10,000 ships meant. She was thinking about the cannon shot that had done nothing to a single small gray human vessel 3 days ago. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships," she said. "Battle formation. Full shields. All weapons to ready status." She paused. "Do not fire unless I give the order. Anyone who fires without my command will answer to me personally." She closed the channel. Kale looked at her. "Are we going to fight, Admiral?" Drexa kept her eyes on the scanner. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. They did not have to wait long. 4 minutes after the energy signatures first appeared, the ground of Earth began to open. Not just in one place, in thousands of places, across every continent, every ocean floor, every hidden corner of the solar system. Great sections of rock and ocean bed and asteroid surface split apart silently. Massive doors, perfectly disguised for 3 centuries, swinging open for the first time, and out of those doors came the ships. They rose slowly at first, as if they were in no hurry. Great dark vessels lifting up through the water and the rock and the thin morning air of 100 different places on Earth. They were not silver like the Vorkai ships. They were not red like the Dranathi warships. They were dark, almost black, the color of deep space, the color of something that had been waiting in the dark for a very long time. Cale made a sound that was not quite a word. He was looking at his scanner screen with his mouth open. The number was still climbing. 100 ships, 500, 2,000, 5,000. The fleet emerging from Earth's hidden places just kept coming, steady and relentless, like water rising in a sealed room. By the time the last ship cleared the surface and took its position in space, the final count on Drex's scanner read 10,412 vessels, 10,412. Against her 500, Drexa stared at the number for a long time. "Admiral," Cale said, his voice very small now. "They outnumber us 20-1. I can count," Drexa said quietly. The human fleet did not attack. That was the first thing that surprised Drexa. With that kind of numbers, with that kind of advantage, any military commander in the galaxy would have attacked immediately, would have ended the threat before it could respond. That was basic strategy. That was what any Vorkai admiral would have done, what any Dranathi general would have done. The human fleet simply formed up, quietly, efficiently. With a precision that made Drex's experienced eye recognize very good training, the dark ships arranged themselves into a formation she had never seen before. Not a standard battle line, not an encirclement, something else, something that looked almost like a wall, a vast curved wall of ships stretching across space, between her fleet and deep space, between her fleet and any escape route. They were not attacking, they were making sure the Council fleet could not run. Drexa understood this, and the understanding sat in her stomach like a cold stone. Then a communication signal opened. A human voice came through, calm and clear. It was not Admiral Cord's voice, it was a woman's voice, lower and steadier. "Council fleet," the voice said. "This is General Yara of the Earth Defense Command. You are currently surrounded by the first human fleet. Your weapons will not penetrate our hulls. Your shields will not withstand our weapons. This is not a threat. It is information. We would prefer to resolve this without further demonstration. However, if you require a demonstration, we are prepared to provide one." Silence on the bridge of the Iron Crown. Cale looked at Drexa. Drexa looked at her scanner. She believed the voice. She believed it completely. She had seen what a single human ship had done to a Vorkai cannon blast. She did not need a demonstration of what 10,000 of them could do. She opened a channel back. "General Yara," she said carefully. "This is Admiral Drexa of the Vorkai fleet. I am requesting clarification on your intentions." A brief pause. "We intend to speak with your council," General Yara said. "All of them in person. We request that you relay this message immediately. Admiral Cord will arrive at the Seat of Stars in 6 hours. We expect the full council to be present." Another pause. "And Admiral Drexa," the voice added, quieter now, almost gentle. "Please tell them to come. It will be better for everyone if they come willingly." The channel closed. Drexa sat very still for a moment. Then she reached for the council communication line. There was nothing else to do. On Earth, in a long underground corridor 4 kilometers below the Pacific Ocean, General Yara set down her communication device and looked at the man standing beside her. Admiral Cord looked back at her. "They will come," Yara said. It was not a question. "They will come," Cord agreed. They began walking down the corridor together. Their footsteps echoed off walls of dark stone. The walls were lined with lights, steady white lights that had been burning for decades, illuminating a place that no alien eye had ever seen. Around them, the shipyard was alive with activity for the first time. Engineers moving quickly, ships completing final system checks, pilots running to their vessels, a hum of engines and voices and machinery that had been silent for so long that some of the older engineers had tears in their eyes simply from hearing it. One of those engineers, an old woman named Dr. Reyes, stopped as Cord and Yara walked past her. She had been working in the shipyard for 51 years. She had given her entire life to the program they called The Wait. "Is it time?" she asked. Cord looked at her. "It is time," he said. Dr. Reyes nodded slowly. She looked around at the enormous underground cavern, at the ships and the lights and the hundreds of people who had dedicated their lives to this moment. She pressed her hand flat against the wall of the cavern for just a second, like saying goodbye to an old friend. Then she went back to work. The council was assembled at the Seat of Stars when Admiral Cord arrived. All 47 races, every ambassador, every military commander, every intelligence officer. The Great Hall was full, more full than Cord had ever seen it. People standing along the walls because there were not enough seats, all of them watching as he walked in. This time, nobody laughed. This time the silence was a different kind of silence entirely. Cord walked to the center of the hall, the same spot he had stood 3 days ago. He looked around at the faces watching him. Afraid faces, angry faces, confused faces. He saw Zealous, sitting very straight in his chair, his expression unreadable. He saw Threen, the small green Zellurian, gripping the edge of her seat with all 4 hands. He saw Suri, standing along the wall since there were no more seats, watching him with calm, steady eyes. He nodded to Suri slightly. She nodded back. 3 days ago, Cord said, his voice carrying easily through the silent hall. I came here to give you a warning. You did not take it. You fired on my ship. You sent a scout fleet to Earth. You then sent 500 warships to our orbit. He paused. I am not angry about any of this. It is what we expected. It is what any military power would do. And honestly, he said, it is what we needed you to do. Zealous frowned slightly. What do you mean? We needed you to send your fleet, Cord said. We needed you to see ours. We could have told you how many ships we had, how powerful they were, but you would not have believed us. You needed to see it for yourselves. The hall was very quiet. How long? Zealous said slowly. How long have you been building? The program began 312 years ago, Cord said. The first ship was completed 270 years ago. The last ship was completed 11 months ago. 270 years, Zealous repeated very quietly. You have had ships for 270 years and you never used them. No, Cord said. Why? Said Zealous. And for the first time his voice had something in it that was not anger, or pride or caution. It was something that sounded almost like genuine confusion, like a question he truly did not know the answer to. With that fleet, you could have taken this council 200 years ago. You could have taken the galaxy. Why did you wait? Cord looked at him for a long moment. Because we did not want to take anything, he said. We wanted to be safe. There is a difference. He told them everything then. He told them about the 12 people in the underground room 300 years ago. He told them about the wait. He told them about the dead coding and the hidden shipyards and the 600 ships in the asteroid belt and the 4-kilometer deep facility under the Pacific Ocean. He told them about the engineers who had spent their entire lives underground, who had never seen the work they were doing, recognized or celebrated, who had built the most powerful fleet in galactic history in complete silence and complete secret. He told them about Dr. Reyes pressing her hand against the cavern wall that morning. The hall listened. Nobody interrupted. Nobody laughed. When he finished, there was a long silence. Then the Drenathi general, the same large red-armored soldier who had stood in front of Cord 3 days ago and asked how many wars the Drenathi had won, spoke. You said your fleet is not an attack, the general said. You said you did not want to take anything. Then what do you want, human? Why show us all of this? Why now? Cord had been waiting for this question. 40 years ago, he said, a planet called Meru was destroyed. The Vorkai destroyed it for its minerals. There were 900 million people on Meru. 900 million people who had done nothing wrong, who had hurt no one, who had asked for help and received none, because no one was powerful enough to say no to the Vorkai. He looked at Zealous. Zealous did not look away. 20 years ago, Cord continued, the Drenathi conquered the Forath people of the Sirius system, a peaceful civilization. They were not a threat to anyone. They are gone now. Their language, their history, their people, gone. He looked at the Drenathi general. The general said nothing. This council, Cord said, his voice still quiet and still calm, has allowed the strong to destroy the weak for 10,000 years. Not because you are cruel. Most of you are not cruel. But because no one was powerful enough to say stop. He paused. We are powerful enough now. The hall absorbed this. And if we refuse? Zealous said. If we tell you that this is how the galaxy works, that this is how it has always worked? Cord looked at him steadily. Then we will demonstrate what our fleet can do, he said. One demonstration, one ship on each side. We will show you the difference, and then you will make your choice. Zealous was quiet for a very long time. Around him, 46 other ambassadors waited, outside the Seat of Stars in the cold dark of space. 10,000 human ships waited too. Finally, Zealous spoke. Show us, he said. They cleared a zone of empty space 2 million kilometers from the station. One Vorkai warship on one side, the largest in Drex's fleet, fully armed, shields at maximum. One human ship on the other side, a mid-sized vessel, not even one of the largest in the human fleet. They were given the signal. The Vorkai ship fired first. The human ship moved, just slightly. A small adjustment, so small it almost looked lazy. The Vorkai energy blast passed through empty space where the ship had been 1 second before. Then the human ship fired back. It fired one shot, just one. The Vorkai ship's shields lit up bright white, held for exactly 1 second and then collapsed entirely. Every system on the ship went dark. Life support, weapons, engines, everything. The ship drifted, dead in space, its crew alive but completely unable to move or fight or do anything at all. One shot, 1 second. The Vorkai ship had not been destroyed. It had been switched off. On the bridge of the Seat of Stars, nobody spoke for a very long time. Then Zealous turned to look at Cord, who was watching the screen beside him. Your general, Zealous said carefully. She said it was better for everyone if we came willingly. Yes, Cord said. She was right, Zealous said quietly. In the empty zone of space, the dark Vorkai ship drifted silently, and across the galaxy, in 47 different worlds, the word was already spreading. The humans had woken up, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had made every decision, every law, every war, every peace treaty, every planet that lived and every planet that died. All of it had passed through this council, through these 47 races, through the hands of the powerful and the proud and the certain. Nobody had ever told them no. Nobody had ever made them afraid. Nobody had ever walked into their great hall and made them feel small. Until now, the image of the Vorkai warship drifting dead in space was still on every screen in the Seat of Stars. Nobody had moved to turn it off. Nobody wanted to. It was important somehow that they keep looking at it, that they understand what it meant. One human ship, not even one of the large ones, had fired one shot, and the most powerful warship in the Vorkai fleet had gone dark in 1 second. Life support still running, crew still breathing but completely helpless, floating in empty space like a broken toy. Zealous looked at the image for a long time. He had commanded fleets. He had won wars. He had sat on this council for 300 years, and in all that time, he had never felt what he was feeling right now. He was not sure there was a word for it in his language. In the human language, the word was humbled. He turned to look at Admiral Cord, who was standing quietly beside him, watching the same screen with the same calm brown eyes. How many of our ships, Zealous said slowly, could your fleet destroy if you wanted to? Cord looked at him. All of them, he said simply. In about 4 hours, Zealous absorbed this. And you are choosing not to. Yes? Why? Cord looked back at the screen, at the drifting dark shape of the Vorkai ship. Because destroying you would not make us safer, he said. It would just make us powerful, and we have watched what powerful does to people in this galaxy. He paused. We did not like what we saw. The council met for 7 hours. Cord waited outside in a small room with a window that looked out at the stars. He sat in a plain chair and drank bad Zellurian tea, and did not check his communication device more than once every 20 minutes, which for him was patience. General Yara called him at the 4-hour mark. Fleet is holding position, she said. No movement from the council ships. Drex's fleet has not attempted to regroup or rearm. They are sitting very still. Good, Cord said. How do you think it is going in there? Cord looked out at the stars. I think Zealous is fighting very hard right now. he said. Not against us, against himself. He is a proud man. He has to find a way to accept this that does not feel like defeat. Is there a way? Cord was quiet for a moment. That depends on what we offer him, he said. When the council doors opened and Zealous came out, he looked older than he had that morning, not physically older, something in the way he carried himself, something in his eyes, like a man who had set down a very heavy thing that he had been carrying for a very long time without realizing how heavy it was. He sat down across from Cord in the small room. For a moment neither of them spoke. The council has discussed your words, Zealous said finally, about Meru, about the Fourth people, about the things this council has allowed to happen. And? Cord said. Zealous folded his long blue hands together on the table. There was disagreement, he said. Some of the ambassadors believe you have no right to come here with your fleet and tell us how to govern the galaxy. Some of them are angry, some of them are frightened, some of them are both. That is understandable, Cord said. But, Zealous continued, there is one thing that every single member of this council agrees on. He looked at Cord directly. You could have done this 200 years ago. You had the fleet. You had the power. You could have come here and taken everything. And you did not. Cord said nothing. Why did you wait until now? Zealous asked. What changed 11 months ago, when you completed your last ship? What made you decide that now was the time? Cord was quiet for a moment. He looked down at the cup of bad Zellurian tea in his hands. A planet called Veth, he said. Zealous went very still. Veth was a small planet on the outer edge of the galaxy, quiet and peaceful, with a population of about 200 million people, most of them farmers, most of them living simple lives that had nothing to do with galactic politics or council decisions. 3 years ago, a Drenathi mining company had found rare minerals in the planet's crust. 8 months ago, the Drenathi military had arrived. 6 months ago, Veth had gone silent. We monitored Veth, Cord said quietly. We watched what happened. We had been watching for 300 years. We had seen Meru. We had seen the Forath. We had told ourselves that we needed more time, more ships, more preparation. He stopped. When Veth went silent, our council met. They voted. For the first time in 300 years, they voted that we had waited long enough. Zealous did not speak. We could not save Veth, Cord said, and his voice was still calm, but there was something underneath the calm now, something that had been there for a long time. We were not ready yet. We were 6 months away from the last ship. We made the decision that if we moved too early and failed, we would never get another chance. He set down the cup. So we waited. 6 more months? And Veth paid the price for our waiting. Silence in the small room. I am sorry, Zealous said, and it sounded like he meant it. So are we, Cord said. Every day. They talked for 3 more hours. When they were done, Cord went back into the great hall. All 47 races were waiting. He stood in the center of the hall in his spot, the same place he had stood 4 days ago when they had all laughed at him. He looked around at the faces that were not laughing now, not afraid exactly, but very serious, very attentive, like people who understood that something important was about to be decided. I am going to tell you what Earth wants, Cord said, and then I am going to tell you what Earth does not want, because I think the second part will surprise you more than the first. He waited a moment. Earth wants 3 things, he said. First, the Galactic Council will create a law, a real law with real consequences, that protects smaller planets from being destroyed or conquered for their resources. Any planet that cannot defend itself is protected. Any race that violates this law answers to a new enforcement body, one that has the power to actually enforce it. He looked around the hall. Second, the Drenathi will send aid to every surviving population that their military has displaced in the last 100 years. This is not optional. The Drenathi general shifted in his seat but said nothing. Third, Cord said, the Council will establish a fair system for trade and resource sharing that does not require the weak to simply accept whatever the strong decide to give them. Another pause. That is what Earth wants, he said. Now here is what Earth does not want. He looked slowly around the room. Earth does not want to run this council, he said. Earth does not want territory. Earth does not want resources. Earth does not want power over any other civilization. He paused to let this land. Our fleet will return to Earth when this meeting is done. We will not station ships at your planets. We will not monitor your governments. We will not tell you how to live. The hall was very quiet. But, he said, and his voice was gentle but very clear, if another Meru happens, we will come back. If another Veth happens, we will come back. If any civilization uses its power to erase a weaker one, we will come back. He looked at Zealous. And the next conversation will not be this polite. The vote took 40 minutes. 44 races voted yes. 2 voted no. The Drenathi and a small aggressive race called the Kreth, who had built their entire culture around the idea that strength was the only law that mattered, 1 abstained. A quiet race of historians called the Inu who never voted on anything but recorded everything. Zealous announced the result in a steady voice. The new law had passed. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had created a protection for the weak that had real teeth behind it, real consequences, real power willing to enforce it. Because somewhere behind the asteroid belt, and under the Pacific Ocean and inside dead moons, 10,000 dark ships were ready. And everyone in that hall knew it. After the vote, the hall slowly emptied. Ambassadors talking quietly among themselves, military commanders looking at their communication devices, intelligence officers already sending messages back to their home planets. The news would spread across the galaxy within hours. Cord was gathering his things to leave when Suri appeared beside him. She was small, barely reaching his shoulder, green-skinned, 4 quiet eyes looking up at him with an expression he could not quite read. "You knew about my reports," she said. It was not a question. "We have been reading every report filed with this council for 200 years, Cord said. "Yes, we read yours. All 12 of them. All 12, he said. Report number 7 was particularly useful. The scanner reading under the Pacific that told us the Vorkai equipment could detect our energy signatures when the dead coding degraded. We upgraded the coding 3 years ago because of your report." Suri absorbed this. "I spent 15 years trying to warn them," she said. "Nobody listened." "I know," Cord said. "That is one of the reasons we decided to trust you with something." She looked at him carefully. "The new enforcement body," Cord said. "The one that will make sure the new law actually means something. We need someone to run it. Someone who knows the council. Someone who knows how the galaxy actually works. Someone who is not human. Because if a human runs it, every other race will always wonder if we are just using it for our own purposes." Suri stared at him. "You want me?" she said. "We want you," Cord said. "If you are willing." She was quiet for a very long time. She thought about 15 years on Earth, about 12 reports that nobody read, about standing alone in a hall full of ambassadors and casting the only no vote against sending warships to Earth's orbit. She thought about Meru, about the Forath, about Veth. She thought about a small gray human ship sitting perfectly still after a Vorkai cannon blast had hit it and done nothing. "Yes," she said, "I am willing." Admiral Cord left the Seat of Stars alone. He walked through the same 3 corridors he had walked through 4 days ago, past the same Drenathi guards and Vorkai officers and Zalurian drones. But it was different this time. The guards were not watching him the way they had watched him before. Not the way people watch a small animal that has wandered into the wrong place. They were watching him the way people watch something they do not fully understand yet, something that had surprised them, something they were still thinking about. He reached his ship and the door closed behind him and he sat down in his chair and opened the communication channel. "This is Cord," he said. "It is done. Begin recall. All ships return to station." General Yara's voice came back immediately. "Understood, Admiral. All ships returning to station." A brief pause. "How did it go?" Cord leaned back in his chair and looked out the small window at the Seat of Stars station floating in the dark, at the stars beyond it, at the vast quiet of space that contained more life than most people could imagine. "Better than Meru," he said quietly. "Not as well as Veth deserved." Yara was quiet for a moment. "We will do better next time," she said. "Yes," Cord said. "We will." He closed the channel. Outside his window, the dark ships of the human fleet were already moving, smooth and silent. 10,000 vessels turning in perfect formation and beginning the long journey home. Back through the asteroid belt. Back past Jupiter and its moons. Back to the hidden places under the rock and the ocean that had kept them safe for 300 years. They did not need to hide anymore. But they would go back anyway, because that was where they belonged, because a weapon that was always visible was just a threat. And Earth had not built this fleet to threaten anyone. They had built it so that one day they would never have to use it. 3 weeks later, on a small farm on a planet in the outer edge of the galaxy, a young girl looked up at the sky. She did not know about the Galactic Council. She did not know about the vote. She did not know what had happened at the Seat of Stars. She was 7 years old, and her biggest concern that morning was whether the rain would come before she finished her work. But her grandmother, sitting on the porch of their small house, called her over. The old woman had a communication device in her hand. She had been reading something on it for the last hour, something that had made her very still and very quiet. The girl ran over and looked at the screen. She could not read the words. She was only 7, but she could see the symbol at the top of the document, a blue and green circle, small and round, like a stone someone had thrown into space. "Grandmother," the girl said, "what does it say?" The old woman looked at the screen for a moment longer. Then she looked at her granddaughter. "It says," the old woman said slowly, "that someone decided to protect us." The girl looked at the blue and green circle. "Who?" she asked. The old woman smiled. "People very far away," she said, "who were afraid once too." In the cold dark under the Pacific Ocean, the great doors closed again. The ship settled back into their places, quiet and still. The lights in the long corridors burned on, and the Earth turned slowly in the sunlight, small and wet and green and blue. Just a rock, just a harmless little rock that the galaxy had once laughed at and would never laugh at again.